Welcome to Insights. I'm Adam Rivers.
And I'm Sarah Collins. In this episode, we'll reflect carefully on the Quran, verse by verse, focusing on wording, context, and coherence.
Yeah, taking that really careful, methodical approach to understand what is truly being communicated.
Exactly. And if you are joining us for the first time, our mission here on Insights is to uncover clarity and find profound, life-changing takeaways directly from the revelation.
And it really builds on what we've been discussing recently.
Right, because previously on Insights, we looked at how humanity was appointed as stewards of the earth. We explored that incredible moment where the angels expressed their apprehension about beings who might cause corruption and shed blood.
Right, they contrasted human volatility and unpredictability with their own constant, flawless praise of the Creator.
Which really set up this massive cosmic tension.
It really did. And that brings us perfectly to the verse we are looking at in this episode, which is Al-Baqarah, verse 31.
Oh, this is a good one.
It is. I will just read the translation for you. And he taught Adam all the names, then presented them to the angels. Then he said, "Tell me the names of those if you are truthful."
Wow.
Yeah, and when you hear that, it poses exactly the paradox we are looking at today. How does a newly formed being, sculpted entirely from dense, heavy mud, suddenly prove its worth to a universe overseen by entities of pure, flawless light?
It is such a stunning visual, honestly. You really have to put yourself in that scene. There's this brand new entity, literally shaped from the dirt of the earth, standing before an assembly of celestial beings.
Right, angels who have been flawlessly executing the mechanics of the cosmos for who knows how long.
Exactly. They just don't make mistakes. And yet, this earthly being is the one who suddenly takes center stage.
Well, the key to that sudden shift in the cosmic hierarchy lies right in the opening phrase, and he taught Adam. This isn't just some casual transfer of information. The verse uses a specific past tense verb that indicates a direct, foundational, divine teaching. It attributes the act of educating directly to the divine himself.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. And to grasp the true magnitude of this, we really need to look closely at the linguistic root of the Arabic word for knowledge or teaching that's used here.
Which is so critical because when we use the word knowledge today, we usually just mean like memorizing a list of facts for a trivia night.
Yeah, exactly.
You think of it like storing inert data on a hard drive.
Yeah.
But I imagine the linguistic root in the revelation is pointing to something far more active than just a cosmic data dump.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The linguistic root of knowledge here revolves around the idea of placing a mark, making a distinction, and truly grasping the reality and structural characteristics of a thing.
So it's deeper.
Much deeper. It's about total comprehension. When the teacher is the creator himself, what happens is a massive qualitative transfer of cognitive abilities. This isn't data, It is an incredible perceptive machinery being implanted into the very structural makeup of this new being.
So it's less about giving Adam a fish and more about inventing the concept of fishing, building the rod, and understanding the whole aquatic ecosystem.
That is a great way to put it.
But this is where the contrast with the angels becomes so fascinating to me. Because the angels weren't ignorant. They weren't just blindly floating around in space.
Right.
They clearly understood their environment well enough to foresee that humans might cause corruption.
That is a crucial distinction to make. The angels absolutely possessed knowledge. They constantly praise and glorify their Lord, and they possess the exact, precise knowledge that perfectly suits their specific cosmic functions.
Okay, so what's the difference then?
Their knowledge is fixed. It is entirely static. The teaching that Adam received was fundamentally different. Adam was granted the actual ability to learn.
Oh, I see.
He was given the cognitive mechanisms to grasp variables, deconstruct complex phenomena, and synthesize entirely new ideas.
Think about it like the difference between a highly advanced pocket calculator and an open source operating system.
I love that.
Right. Like the calculator, the angel in this analogy, is flawless. If you type in an equation, it will give you the perfect answer 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000 without a single error. But it can only do what it was programmed to do. It can't suddenly decide to, write a poem or design a bridge. Adam, on the other hand, is the open source operating system.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Right.
The operating system might crash sometimes, which sort of represents the human tendency to make mistakes or cause corruption, but it is designed to process unknown inputs and adapt.
Yeah, it grows.
Exactly. And it's vital for you listening to recognize that Adam here represents the cognitive genome of all humanity. That ability to learn, distinguish, and deconstruct was placed into the blueprint of the entire human race. It is your genetic cognitive inheritance.
Which brings up a question that I really think we need to sit with.
What's that?
Well, if the very foundation of human honor in the revelation, the exact trait that makes us worthy of being stewards of the earth is our capacity to reason and adapt, why do so many societies that claim to revere this revelation rely so heavily on blind imitation?
Man, that is one of the greatest tragedies of human history, honestly.
It sure is.
When we rely on unthinking tradition, when we just say, well, this is how our ancestors did it, we are literally abandoning the very trait that elevated us above the angels in the first place.
Right, we just turn off the system.
Yeah. We trade our dynamic, open-ended operating system for a broken, closed loop.
Let's ground this in a real-life example for a second. Look at rote learning in so many of our modern educational systems compared to true adaptable problem solving.
Oh yeah, perfect example.
If you force a student to memorize a complex physics formula without ever explaining the logic behind it, sure, they might pass a standardized test. But the second they get into the real world and they encounter an engineering problem where the variables don't perfectly match the textbook, they completely freeze. They have zero adaptability.
And that freeze happens because they were taught to act like the calculator, not the open source system.
Exactly.
The revelation is making it crystal clear that humanity's absolute qualification for being active agents in the universe was not based on purely abstract, unthinking worship. The angels had already mastered that.
Right. We couldn't compete with them on that front anyway.
Exactly. Our qualification was rooted deeply in knowledge, science, and the rigorous use of the intellect.
So we have this incredible cognitive machinery installed. We have the hardware and the base operating system. But what exactly was fed into it to kickstart the process? The verse specifically says he was taught the names.
Well, let me throw that back to you for a second. When you hear the names, could it just be the basic labels for trees, rocks, and rivers? Or, is there a much larger systemic code at play here?
I mean, it absolutely has to be more than a vocabulary lesson. I know some of the older, maybe more simplistic historical commentaries suggested it was just learning the nouns of the physical world, like God pointing at a bird and saying bird, or pointing at a mountain and saying mountain.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
But that just feels so underwhelming given the cosmic stakes.
It is underwhelming. And honestly, a rigorous, perceptive reading of the Qur'an completely rejects that superficial flattening of the meaning.
It just doesn't fit the context.
It doesn't. That simplistic view doesn't match the immense majesty of the cosmic scene, nor does it justify the massive challenge being presented to the angels. To truly understand what the names are, we have to look at the linguistic root of the Arabic word for name.
I love when we dig into the roots, because the language of the revelation always hides these massive philosophical dimensions. What does the root of name actually imply?
So the root implies elevation or rising above. So a name is that which elevates a thing, lifting it out of the void of the unknown and bringing it into the bright realm of cognitive existence and mental comprehension.
Wow.
Teaching the names is, at its absolute core, granting humanity the power of abstraction.
Abstraction. I mean, that is the pivot point of all human civilization.
Absolutely.
It means we aren't just biological creatures reacting to physical stimuli. We don't just feel heat and reflexively pull our hands away.
Yeah.
We take the physical phenomenon of heat and we turn it into a concept in our minds.
Precisely.
Right.
It is the ability to convert material realities into linguistic and mental symbols.
Right.
Once a reality is abstracted into a symbol, it can be communicated, debated, and built upon across generations. Language is the ultimate vessel of thought.
Without it, you're stuck.
Completely. Without the ability to abstract things, to categorize them, and understand their hidden properties, you just cannot accumulate knowledge.
To put it in perspective for you listening, if you see a fire and you only react to the warmth in the moment, you are really just surviving.
Yeah.
But if you can abstract that fire, if you can elevate it into a name, you can study its properties. You begin to understand the concepts of combustion, oxygen, and energy. Suddenly, you aren't just sitting around a campfire. You are building an internal combustion engine. You are launching a rocket into orbit. That is the true power of abstraction.
And notice the incredibly deliberate phrasing in the verse here. The names, all of them.
Whoa, all of them.
Yeah, that addition of all of them is vital. It confirms the absolute comprehensiveness of this cognitive power. It means humanity is equipped with a perpetually open cognitive program.
Wow.
We have the capacity to absorb an infinite number of ever-renewing concepts and discoveries across the entirety of time and space.
It implies there is literally no ceiling to what the human mind was designed to explore.
None.
We aren't capped at a certain level of technological advancement. The capacity was intentionally designed to be infinite.
Exactly. And this brings us to a reality that is honestly shocking to many when they first realize it. God did not give humanity ready-made knowledge for all time. He didn't drop a completed magical encyclopedia of the universe into our laps for us to just read from. Instead, he gave us the tools to discover it. This means the revelation actively and inherently demands continuous, relentless scientific research.
Wait, hold on. Does this mean the revelation actually destroys the dependency mindset?
Yes.
Like the idea that we should just sit back, pray, and wait for ready-made, miraculous solutions to our worldly problems?
Yes, it absolutely dismantles that passive mentality. The tools of knowledge require humans to actively explore an open universe.
That is huge.
It means that engaging in empty, mindless rituals while deliberately ignoring the rigorous pursuit of knowledge is actually a severe regression. It is a step backward from humanity's original divine honor. We were meant to use the tools.
That completely reframes how we view work and discovery.
Completely.
It means that a scientist rolling up their sleeves in a lab to cure a disease, or an engineer figuring out how to build a drought-resistant agricultural system, isn't just doing worldly chores that are separate from their spiritual life.
Not at all.
They are actively utilizing the exact gift that justified our existence to the angels in the first place.
It is the highest fulfillment of our cosmic purpose. We are designed to be active discoverers, not passive consumers waiting for handouts from the heavens.
Right.
The cognitive tools are in our hands, but we have to do the grueling, beautiful work of exploring the universe.
So, once humanity's prototype is equipped with this limitless cognitive program, how does he face the established cosmic order? Like, how is this incredible new ability actually tested?
Well, the verse moves directly into this testing phase. It says, then presented them to the angels. And there's a very specific linguistic nuance here in the Arabic word used for then.
Okay.
It implies a delay, like a distinct period of time passing between the teaching and the presentation.
Oh, so it wasn't an instantaneous rapid-fire sequence. He taught Adam, and then there was a space, a duration, before the grand reveal to the angels.
Exactly.
Why is that delay significant?
That delay implies that the human mind fully absorbed this capacity. Adam internalized this cognitive power. He truly processed it, allowing it to integrate into his being before being put to the test.
That makes sense.
And then we hit a truly fascinating grammatical detail in the phrasing presented them. The pronoun used here in Arabic for them is strictly reserved for rational beings.
Wait, really? That is incredibly striking. Because
Yeah.
usually when we talk about knowledge, data, or concepts, we use pronouns meant for inanimate objects. But the Revelation uses a pronoun that treats this knowledge as if it were a living, breathing entity.
Exactly. It completely bypasses the grammar for objects and uses the pronoun for intelligent, rational entities. This forces us to pause and reflect deeply on what the names actually represent.
Okay.
Knowledge here isn't dead data sitting on a dusty library shelf. These cosmic laws, concepts, and realities are so precise, so vital, and so actively influential in shaping existence that they are treated grammatically as dynamic, living forces.
That changes the entire perspective on what scientific discovery is.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. When a physicist uncovers a fundamental law of gravity, or a biologist decodes a sequence of DNA, they aren't just looking at a static fact, they are interacting with the dynamic, commanding mechanics of the universe. Gravity commands the planets. DNA instructs the cells. The universe is buzzing with these living laws.
And this dynamic nature is exactly why the angels were presented with them. Angels, by their magnificent nature, are programmed for absolute obedience to a single direct command.
Right.
But because of that, they lack the inductive free space needed to navigate a world full of shifting variables. Earth is a realm of contradictions, friction, and constantly changing circumstances. It requires a mind that can interact with dynamic, moving laws, not just execute a static routine.
Which perfectly explains the angels' initial apprehension. They look at Earth, they see all these chaotic, colliding variables, and they know their fixed programming isn't meant to constantly improvise.
Exactly.
But Adam's mind is built precisely for improvisation based on those dynamic laws. But notice the phrasing God uses next. He tells the angels, tell me the names of those. Why frame it as a challenge? God could have just issued an order like, Adam is superior, submit to him.
He certainly could have, but the methodology of the Qur'an is infinitely more profound than just issuing top-down mandates without context.
Right.
The word used for tell me is derived from a root that doesn't just mean giving a casual piece of information. It means delivering news of great magnitude, the kind of paradigm-shifting news that fundamentally alters the listener's entire understanding of reality.
So this isn't some cosmic pop quiz where God is just checking if they did the reading. It is a demand to reveal profound, perspective-altering truths about the nature of these cosmic laws.
Precisely. And by framing it as a challenge rather than an autocratic order, the revelation establishes the eternal methodology of evidence and proof for the entire universe.
Wow.
Merit and leadership are not granted by seniority. The angels were created first, and they had been serving flawlessly, but that didn't automatically give them the right to manage the complexities of Earth.
That is a staggering lesson for human society, especially when we look at how power is distributed today. Oh, definitely.
Leadership shouldn't be based on who has been around the longest, or who has the most prestigious lineage, or who makes the loudest, most eloquent claims of piety. It has to be grounded in absolute competence.
Competence and evidence. Leadership belongs to those who possess the cognitive tools to understand reality and provide actual, workable answers to complex problems.
Yeah.
The challenge to the angels proves that God's universe operates on demonstrated ability. You have to prove you can navigate the dynamic laws.
Which brings us to a really fascinating condition God places on the angels at the end of that challenge. God says, if you are truthful, this stopped me in my tracks. Were the angels lying before? Were they being deceptive when they expressed their concerns about humanity causing corruption and shedding blood?
Not at all. They weren't lying in any malicious or deceptive sense. In the profound context of the Qur'an, truthfulness here means matching a claim to the absolute core of reality.
Okay, so it's about accuracy. Exactly. The angels were being entirely honest based on their limited view. From their vantage point, looking at a creature built with free will and volatility, they saw the obvious potential for chaos.
And they genuinely believed that pure, unadulterated worship, which they provided flawlessly every single second, was the only necessary qualification for stewardship.
Yeah.
They were completely sincere in that belief.
They were sincere, but their picture of reality was incomplete. The challenge God presents forces them to test their assumption against evidence.
Right.
If pure static worship is enough to run the variable-rich Earth, then show that you can grasp these dynamic laws. Show that you can abstract and name these phenomena. It's a test of whether their sincerely held assumption survives contact with the full reality of the cosmos.
I want you to apply this realistically to your own life right now. Think about how many assumptions you have inherited from your culture, your family, or your society that you believe are absolutely, unquestionably true simply because your perspective hasn't been broadened yet.
That is such a good point.
You hold on to these beliefs sincerely. But true honesty, true truthfulness, as the Revelation defines it, requires the cognitive courage to course correct when you are presented with new evidence that contradicts your limited view.
That is the exact lesson. True honesty isn't just refraining from telling a lie. It is having the intellectual bravery to adjust your worldview when reality proves your previous assumptions were incomplete.
Yeah.
The angels modeled this perfectly later by yielding to the evidence. But the standard of truth is established right here in this challenge.
If we look at the logical sequence found in this verse, it's actually a brilliant blueprint. First, there's the granting of knowledge, then the evaluation or presentation of that knowledge, then the challenge to the established order, and finally, setting the standard of truth based purely on evidence.
It's so methodical.
It really is. How does this specific sequence serve the larger mission of humanity being stewards on Earth?
Well, it serves it by highlighting the absolute necessity of adaptability and self-correction. You have to constantly contrast the two systems at play in this cosmic scene. The angels represent a fixed, obedient, completely predictable system. Humanity represents a variable, free, and fallible system. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to cause corruption, just as the angels feared. But we are uniquely equipped with a mechanism to fix it.
And that mechanism is the knowledge of the names. It's our cognitive capacity for abstraction.
Yes. Knowing the names means knowing how to reframe concepts. It means having the ability to observe the disastrous consequences of our actions, abstract them, understand why they failed, and design a new approach.
That is incredible.
When a human makes a mistake, their cognitive tools allow them to analyze the broken variables, conceptualize a better path, and literally change their behavior. This cognitive tool is exactly what allows humans to repent and fix mistakes later.
Which completely reframes how we view repentance.
Doesn't it?
It's not just an emotional apology where you cry and say you're sorry. Repentance is a rigorous cognitive pivot. You use your intellect to recognize the error in the system of your life, you understand the dynamic laws you violated, and you apply a new understanding to actively repair the damage.
That is profoundly accurate. Knowledge, in this context, is a literal lifeline. It is the only thing that prevents human fallibility from becoming a permanent apocalyptic failure.
Wow.
Because we can learn, we can recover, our operating system can download a patch.
But there is a glaring contrast here that we absolutely have to address. It's the physical origins of the beings involved.
Okay.
You have the angels, who are made of pure, luminous light, and then you have the human prototype, Adam, made of dense, heavy clay from the earth. When you look at it aesthetically, it feels like a severe physical mismatch. How does the revelation reconcile this physical inferiority of mud compared to light?
It reconciles it by completely radically flipping the material equation on its head.
Okay, how so?
The Qur'an establishes right here that true elevation is never based on your physical origin, your aesthetic beauty, or the material you are made of. True elevation is based entirely on cognitive capacity and the knowledge you bear.
So it is a total rejection of materialism as a metric for worth.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if you are made of glorious, blinding light, or if you wear the most expensive clothes or come from the wealthiest neighborhood. If the being made of heavy, dense mud has a higher capacity for abstraction, understanding, and problem solving, the being of mud takes absolute precedence.
That's it, exactly. Teaching the names was the true spiritual breath that elevated humanity. It took us from being a mere biological entity, a collection of organic earthly matter, and transformed us into civilized cosmic stewards.
Yeah.
Our ultimate value resides entirely in our minds and our active spiritual connection to knowledge.
Which means the inverse is terrifyingly true. If we abandon reason, if we refuse to learn, if we just operate on base instincts or thoughtless imitation of the people around us, we are essentially reducing ourselves back to inanimate clay.
We strip ourselves of the very breath that makes us human. And I'll go a step further. Every single modern scientific discovery, every technological innovation that connects the globe, every medical breakthrough that alleviates a child's suffering is a direct, unbroken extension of that first divine teaching of the names.
Hold on, let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because if what you are saying is true, then the popular divide we see everywhere today between what people call religious sciences and worldly sciences, is that completely fabricated?
It is entirely fabricated. The Qur'an does not recognize this split at all.
Wow.
Any knowledge that discovers the lanes of the universe, any rigorous science that relieves human suffering, any brilliant innovation that builds a more just civilization, all of it is a core, fundamental part of the names that humanity was honored with.
That is incredibly liberating to hear. It means the biologist peering through an electron microscope, the civil engineer designing a safer bridge to connect communities, the astronomer mapping the outer edges of the galaxy, they are all engaged in the sacred act of utilizing the cognitive genome God gave us.
It's exactly.
They're continuing the legacy of the names just as much as someone studying theology.
They absolutely are. It is a profound tragedy when people try to demean experimental sciences or technological fields in favor of purely formalistic rituals, mistakenly thinking that avoiding the physical world is somehow more holy.
Yeah, that makes no sense now.
Exploring God's universe and deeply understanding its mechanics is an act of the highest reverence. You are reading the physical proof of the Creator's brilliance.
But this brings us to a harsh reality. If we hold this incredible cognitive potential, and if this open-ended program is our inherent birthright, why do so many communities feel completely stuck in cycles of backwardness?
Yeah, it's a fair question.
Why is there so much suffering, poverty, and stagnation if we have these tools pre-installed?
Because we have forgotten how to use our tools. We let the operating system gather dust. The revelation issues a clear ringing call here for us to reclaim our names.
Reclaim our names.
Exactly. If you look objectively at the world today, the leading nations, the ones shaping the future of humanity, are the ones that actively discover new phenomena. They invent new technologies, and because they discover them, they literally invent the terminology for them. They are actively engaged in the divine act of naming.
while backward nations simply consume what others produce.
Right.
They adopt the imported technology, they adopt the foreign names for it, but they don't engage in the primary cognitive act of discovery. They become entirely dependent on the abstraction of others.
And that dependency is a total betrayal of our stewardship. Even the act of prayer, in its truest, most complete sense, requires actively exploring universal laws.
How so?
You cannot just sit passively in a room and pray for a cure to a devastating disease while refusing to fund or study medicine. True prayer is aligning your deep spiritual intention with the grueling physical effort of exploring the universe God created.
That makes so much sense.
You don't just wait for magical miracles that break the laws of nature. You rigorously study the laws of nature to find the hidden solutions God already embedded within them.
It really highlights the massive issue of leadership in our world today. It seems like good intentions are nowhere near enough to run a society.
Not even close.
We often see people elevated to positions of immense authority simply because they seem like good people, or they speak with great passion, or they are very pious in their personal lives.
And we have to link that directly back to God's challenge to the angels.
Yeah.
If you're truthful, think deeply about the angels in this cosmic scene. The angels had the most wonderful, pure, flawless intentions imaginable.
Right.
They wanted to keep the universe entirely pure. They wanted to ensure the Creator was never disobeyed. Their intentions were utterly flawless.
But flawless intentions didn't qualify them to manage the volatile reality of Earth.
Exactly. Earth is wildly complex. It requires a mind that can handle deep contradictions, balance fiercely competing interests, and turn chaos into sustainable order.
Yeah.
I want to state this as clearly as possible. No one deserves leadership or guardianship over a community merely based on apparent personal piety if they completely lack the scientific, economic, and cognitive competence to actually solve society's problems. Good intentions without competence inevitably lead to disaster.
So how do we practically start this cognitive revolution in our own lives and in our broader heritage? Like, how do we shake off the centuries of dust and actually start utilizing this operating system we've been given?
It starts with the absolute willingness to smash intellectual idols. We have to violently break the rote habits that have calcified in our minds over generations. We need to cultivate what we can call the courage of naming.
The courage of naming. I love the weight of that phrase. What does that actually look like in day-to-day practice?
Well, it means having the bravery to call a mistake, even if it's a tradition your family has held sacred for generations. It means calling backwardness exactly what it is. Backwardness, even if it is cleverly cloaked in the language of religion, culture, or national pride. We have to use the revelation as the supreme, unyielding scale.
So whatever aligns with reason, whatever elevates human dignity, whatever alleviates suffering and builds justice, that is divine. That is derived from the power of the names.
Yes.
And whatever forces us into blind imitation, whatever shuts down critical questions, whatever demands we stop thinking, that is ignorance, regardless of how holy the label it wears might seem.
Exactly. We have to stop functioning like programmed robots running on autopilot. We aren't angels. We aren't meant to be static, flawless creatures executing a single loop. We're meant to think, critique, fail, adapt, and continually evolve our understanding of the universe.
I noticed a really profound, broader social implication in all of this, too, because this incredible honor, this spark of cognitive light, was given to humanity's prototype, Adam. What does this say about the concept of human equality?
Oh, it provides the ultimate unshakable foundation for human equality. Because this profound cognitive machinery was given to the father of humanity, it means that every single human being walking the earth today possesses this exact same potential. It does not matter your race, your gender, your socioeconomic class, or what borders you were born within. The light of cognition is hardwired inside you.
It completely destroys any historical or modern theories of racial or tribal supremacy.
It obliterates them.
You simply cannot claim that your specific ethnic group is inherently superior or closer to the divine when the very trait that the Creator values above all else, the intellect, was distributed equally to the entire human family from the very beginning.
It obliterates prejudice at the root. Superiority in the framework of the revelation is never based on biology or lineage. It is based strictly on how much one activates these cognitive capacities for the good of others.
That is so powerful.
It's about rigorous effort and practical application. If you use your intellect to build infrastructure, to heal the sick, and to establish justice, you are elevating yourself. If you suppress others' ability to think, learn, and grow, you are directly rebelling against the divine design.
Let's guide the conversation back to the climax of this cosmic scene. I want to just picture the angels' profound astonishment. They are watching this clay, being this mud entity, decode the universe.
Yeah, imagine that.
They have been running the cosmos, and suddenly this new creation starts abstracting concepts, naming dynamic laws, and explaining the mechanics of existence.
It must have been a moment of absolute breathtaking majesty. And what's truly beautiful here is the high etiquette of dialogue modeled by the angels. They didn't double down on their initial apprehension.
Right.
They didn't let ego or seniority prevent them from seeing the truth of the demonstration.
Which is such an incredibly common human failing. When we are proven wrong, especially publicly, we almost always get defensive. We dig our heels in, we attack the person presenting the evidence, or we move the goalposts.
But the angels showed the ultimate humility. They admitted the truth the very moment the evidence was clear. They recognized merit based entirely on proof.
Yeah.
This teaches us that stubbornness against evidence is the path of pure arrogance. Adjusting to the truth, on the other hand, is an angelic trait. It is the absolute hallmark of a refined, elevated mind.
So, bringing all of this immense cosmic and philosophical truth down to earth, what is the ultimate takeaway for us? How do we translate this single verse into a daily constitution for our lives?
We can actually break it down logically based on the exact words of the verse. First, the word taught demands that we build educational systems based entirely on critical thinking, not rote memorization. We have to teach people how to deconstruct problems, not just what to regurgitate on a test.
Second, the word atom. It demands human unity. It serves as a constant reminder that every person we interact with shares this divine cognitive inheritance, demanding our utmost respect and equality.
Third, all names. This demands limitless scientific and philosophical research. There is no end to what we can discover, and we should never, ever put artificial boundaries on human curiosity and exploration.
And finally, the phrase, "tell me." It demands that we use evidence and hard data over emotional claims. We have to prove our worth through tangible competence, not just grand rhetoric or having good intentions.
The ultimate challenge left for us is this. We must act as creative, reasoning stewards of this earth. We cannot be robotic followers. We have been entrusted with the immense, universe-altering power of knowledge, and we have to honor that trust by using it to bring order, justice, and continuous progress to the world around us.
Thank you for that expansive and incredibly logical breakdown of these concepts. It really shifts the perspective from seeing this as just an ancient story to realizing it is a living, breathing blueprint for human potential.
Oh, it really is my pleasure.
To summarize the main points we've explored in this episode, the essence of humanity isn't just to exist, survive, and blindly repeat the past, but to actively learn, abstract, and discover. True stewardship of the earth requires scientific competence and hard evidence, not just good intentions or passive piety. The revelation actively challenges us to abandon blind imitation, destroy the fabricated divide between spiritual and scientific knowledge, and reclaim the intellectual courage to name and shape our reality.
Beautifully said.
As we close, I want to leave you with a profound, open-ended question to ponder as you go about your day. If the ability to name and understand reality is the very trait that elevated humanity above the angels, what parts of your own potential are currently lying dormant, just waiting for you to have the courage to name them?
That is a great question.
Thank you so much for listening. That's it for this episode of Insights. If you found this reflection helpful, follow the show and join us next time as we continue verse by verse in the Quran. Until then, take one idea from this verse into your day.